Hello guys, today we will be doing a factorization and we will be factorizing by doing the grouping. Now, grouping usually start when we have four terms. Now, the first thing that you need to do in grouping, you must first group the first two terms. You start by first two terms, is not always the case. So the first two terms that I have here is this one here, and the next two terms that I have here is this one, where I have this one. So you can start by grouping them like that and their signs. But purpose of grouping is that after factorizing, because most of the time after factorizing the first one and the second one, you must take out the common factor after that step. So the first step, by grouping these 2 and 2, we can see that in the first one that we dropped here, there is a common factor that we have here, which is what? Which is a. So if we take a from these two terms, we are left with x and then plus y. If we times this and this, gonna give us this. If we times this and this, gonna give us this. Then from here, there is also a common factor here, but remember now, if I take out this common factor must go with the negative. Why with the negative? Because I need to be left with x plus y. So if I take negative 5 and then this negative 5, if I times it with whatever it is here, it has to give me negative 5x, which is going to be x. And then is it gonna be negative here or is gonna be positive? But remember now, this negative times whatever that is here has to give me negative. So it needs to be positive, because now negative times positive give me negative. Then I'm gonna be left with what? With y. So timesing this and this give me this, timesing this and this does give me this. Now from here I have this. From here now there is another common factor that we see here. I have this and I have this, which is a common factor. Then taking that common factor now, which is just x plus y, which is a common factor, what is left now? What is left is this a and this negative 5, which is gonna write as a minus 5. And then from here we are done. Now let's go to the second one. Now here, this one, it's easy because they're already taking me a common factor here, and they're already taken the common factor, which is 2. Then from here, but my thing or something that I need to do here is to try by all means to make these two be the same. They look like they are the same, but they are not the same. Since you see this x minus 2y, this is 2y minus x. So there's something that I have to do to make these two things to be the same. The first one, I will say it's fine, but now let me make this look like this in terms of starting with x and then y follows. So it's just going to be negative x minus what? Negative x, no, sorry, plus 2y. And then from here on this one, I need to take the negative sign as a common factor. If I take a negative sign as a common factor, this x is going to change and become positive, and then now this positive 2y is going to change and become what's negative, which is going to be the same as this one. So it's a into x minus 2y. Now if I take a negative, let me just put it like this. Then from here I take a negative as a common factor. If I take negative, I need to times something here that's going to give me negative, which is going to be positive what? X, because this times this give me this. And then if I take negative from this positive, I'm going to be left with negative, because if I say negative times this negative is to give me positive, which is going to be 2y. And then from here it's just x minus 2y and then this negative now is going to times this positive 2x, which is going to give me negative 2, which is just x minus 2y. And then from here now I have this common factor, which is this. Now this is the same as this, so I can take it now as what? As a common factor, which is just going to be x minus 2y into, now I'm left with this a and minus 2, which is just a minus 2, and then after that I'm done. I hope we still get it, guys. Now another question here, remember, if you can say here you're gonna group the first one, which is this, and then the second one, which is this. Remember, after factorizing these two, after that I need to take out the common factor again. So does that gonna help me? Let me just do a trial and error. Here you see that there is x, then there is x, meaning there's a common factor of x, and then there is this 16 and this 4, meaning we do have a common factor of a number also. So 4 does go to 16. So if I take 4x, here I'm going to be left with 16 divided by 4, going to be left with 4x. And then I did take 4 and x, so I'm going to be left with what? Negative 1. And then now from here, if I take a negative y as a common factor, I'm going to be left with positive y, and then positive also 1. Now remember, times this and this does give me this, times this and this, it also does give me this. But now what is very important, this is not the same as this, so these two, they are not working. Now let me change, let me group now. Let me group let me see, I can cancel this. Yeah, and cancel this, thank you. And then now let me see, I can group this and this, and then also group this, group this and this. I'm grouping those two now. Let me write it well. So I'm grouping 16 x squared minus y squared, and then now negative 4x minus y. Now I'm grouping that, grouping these two and these two. Now let me factorize this. Now factorizing this, now you can see this is the difference of two squares. Difference of two squares, I must have two bracket. Now factorizing this, now what is the cubed, or what is the square root of 16? Square root of 16, it's what? It's 4. So I have 4 here, and then I have 4 also here. Square root of fx is just x and x. And then now what is the square root of y? Is just y and y. And then difference of two squares, one bracket is going to be positive, another bracket is going to be negative, and then after that we're done. Now I hope you can see now there's something that look like is going to be the same as these two brackets here. Now from here, if I can take a negative, because I don't have a common factor in terms of numbers, because I have 4 and 1 here, and I have just x and y here. So if I just take a negative into 4x, then plus y, because if I times this and this, I do get to negative 4x. If I times this negative also and this positive y, I do get this. Now if you see, there is something that is common here. This bracket, is the same as this bracket, so I can say take a common factor of this, which is just 4x plus y, which is this, and then after that, taking that common factor, I'm going to be left with this, which is just 4x minus y. Now remember, I have negative. I've already taken this common factor here. I'm going to be left with then 1 here, that is here, which is negative 1, and then from here I'm done. Remember guys, this one is inside this bracket, is not outside the bracket. Now going to this one here, let me just write it here so that I can be able to do it. Here is my number 4, which is 16x, let me see, it's x squared, and then minus 8x, and then minus y squared, and then plus 1. Now also here I will try to do and try an error method from this first one here. If I can group the first one here, because that's what you usually do. If I can just group this, just doing a try error method and see that it's gonna work or not, because also you have to do that and see that it's gonna work or not. After we've done many times, you will see that they are the ones that are usually not gonna work by observing them. So if I can do this try error method, grouping this, do I have a common factor of 16? Does 16 goes to 8? 16 divided by 8? Yes, it does. So what is a common factor here? Common factor is 8. Or I have x and x, meaning I can take also x outside. So if I say take 8 into 16, I'm going to be left with 2, and then x, and then minus, I've already take x, 8x, so I'm going to be left with 1. And then from here, I can say this is, if I can write this as 1 minus y squared, you can say this is different of 2 squares, and then I can say this is 1 plus y into y minus y. But now remember, this, there's nothing from this that is the same as this, that is the same as this. So this criterion error, this one, it's really not working. So I need to first to find something new again. So this one is not working, this one is not working. Now let me try a new one. Let me try and group this now. Let me try and group this from here. Group this, because there's nothing that has y in this one here. Remember, we had positive 1 there. We had positive 1 here. Let me try to group these 3, which is gonna make something new now. X squared minus 8x, and then plus 1, and then we have this minus y squared. Now I have something very important here, which is the trinomial. Trinomial, how do you factorize trinomial? You open 2 brackets, then opening these 2 brackets is going to be 4x. The factors of here is 4x and 4x, and then the factors of 1 is just 1 and 1 of this one, and then we have negative and negative. If you can times this and check this doesn't give you this, yes it does. It's very important that you must know how to factorize the trinomial, guys. Go to my videos, I've already done the video where I factorize a trinomial, and then after that I have this one, my y minus squared, which is this one. And then from here you can see these 2 things are what? Are the same. I hope you see these 2 things are the same, I can just make it as 4x minus y all squared, because these two things is just one and the same thing. It's just the same as x times x, which is just x squared. I hope you can see that. And then from there, now here, very important also, because you can still factorize this thing, which is just what? Which is just the difference of two squares. If you can just call 4x minus 1 is equals to z, it's just z, it's gonna be z squared minus y squared, which is just, if I can factorize this, it's just gonna be z minus y and then z plus y, if I can say it was like that in terms of difference of two squares. Now factorizing this, now it's just gonna be 4x minus 1, and then here it's plus y, and then 4x minus y, which is this, and then changing the sign here, it's gonna be positive y. Oh sorry, this is positive, so this one has to be negative, because one is changes the sign, so this one has to be negative. Sorry about that, this one needs to